Welcome back, everybody, to the Deadlock Fight Night number 6. We're now into the North American part of our broadcast here. Jason Kaplan joined by DDK. And I mean, DDK, we got to see everything that EU has to show us, but I'm so happy to see some newcomers in North America going to be taking part today.
Yeah, it's well, the thing for those of you that haven't watched the NA broadcast, what tends to happen is like constant roster shuffles, and even Hydro Nation was a part of a roster shuffle, but they just merged themselves with the other like best teams. So we're in this situation where now we have to kind of see who are going to cement themselves as the names, because we have had these names for a while in EU, but NA still seems to be settling, Jason. But perhaps soon we will find some consistency in the rosters.
Well, if you guys haven't been here before on the Deadlock Fight Night, what it is, it's mostly just show matches. We do have two teams go head-to-head to challenge out of our top dog of the region with a play in a best of 3 to determine who wins the $1,000. The play-in is going to be a best of 1, and the way we choose these teams, it's based off other events that are happening throughout the weeks, and we choose the best teams to bring you all the best action here on DFN. So we have Llama Lords going up against Yuki Panuki here in a best of 1 to determine who plays up against Hydro Nation a little bit later on today. While you guys are watching, of course, at home, don't forget about the fact that we do have merch for you guys at home who are watching. We have these great little shirts, hoodies where you can get goot. We have a mouse pad as well over on the site. You can head over to deadlockfightnight.com, and all the proceeds that you guys do spend into this go directly back into the broadcast, whether it's prize pool or production or what it might be. We're here just to make the show bigger and better for you every single week, which is also why we do have a sub button now on Twitch as well, which you guys can pick up, which I can see right. I'm so bad at these. Rye Adil, thank you so much for the sub. All those proceeds, of course, go back to the show as well. So we love having you guys here. We love doing the show every week for you guys. And DDK, it is time to bring back the man yet again here, who's probably just had his breather from the EU slugfest we had. ZP gonna be joining us once again here on the desk to talk about what will be coming up in North America. And ZP, I mean, you got to be tired, man. You've been in the thick of it all day long dealing with what's happening in North America.
You know what? NA, the games may be variable, but let me tell you, behind the scenes, it is always kicking, where I wake up today at 4 a.m. to bring my dad to the airport, and I go, yeah, I'll bring my dad to the airport, come back, get some sleep, and come home to a nuclear explosion on Discord, courtesy of NA. So when we get to the roster screen, I think you may just see me collapse and just, go into the fetal position. But it's fine. We made it. Our teams are locked in. It's all set to go. I'm excited because we are going to get some gameplay here. And there's the rosters. I can't handle this right now.
Can we actually get a picture-in-picture of ZP really quick in the fetal position while we talk about this? Llama Lords, we've been hearing a lot of good things about this team. Of course, you guys might recognize Ido from back in the day, really, on one of the best teams in North America before it got absorbed, I should say. Young Calc, and yes, chat, you are right. Calc is short for calculator. Rocane, Lord MM, Naked, and Lucky, which we recognize from a couple of weeks prior, up against Yuki Panuki here. And I mean, Goober, for me, DDK was one of the big standout players that we saw last week. His Viscous play was phenomenal.
Yeah, Goob is definitely one of the, I feel like, household names for that hero in this region. So I feel like if you're Llama Lords, you actually just ban Viscous. I feel like that's you either go for the Viscous ban to target Goober, or you go for the Pocket ban to target Alju. But you're not really without options to target somebody on Yuki Panuki. So it should be fun to see how this one kind of plays out, because we do have some like familiar names here, along with some of the new ones too.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to add on real quick. If it's funny enough, like talking with Goober, super excited to play, but did have the concern, like, man, I hope they don't ban Viscous. It's like, well, if they do ban Viscous, it comes at a pretty severe meta cost right now. So at the very least, Yuki Panuki can take that as a saving grace.
I mean, if they ban your Viscous, just ban out Pocket from Ido and be like, haha, F you. At least I got one back on our end. But obviously, if you guys haven't noticed as well, there was some major patch changes that came into this. Yamato can be quite different. The economy a little bit quite different as well. So I am actually really curious to see what's going to happen when it comes to these two teams, because honestly, DDK, I mean, you can be as familiar as you want when it comes to drafts with NA, but I feel like there's always something that's going to surprise you.
Especially right now too, because I think that the last patch really introduced the largest change in how the game plays overall. And it's like the economy changes have affected the pacing of the game. It's affected the balancing of heroes, even without touching some of the hero balances, because the jungle is worth less. Being on lanes is better. You know, you're going to get value from also split pushing in a way that, like, if we go back a few economies ago, wasn't the case, and that was one of the downsides, which has been addressed now. So there's a lot of changes, I think, which you know, are going to make the game feel a bit different for these teams, and they won't have had the reps on it. And I think one of the cool things for us is that although we got a crazy banger of a third map in the EU portion that just finished, generally the games should go faster now, because on average, like by the 20-minute mark, every player is getting, you know, at least like 150 to like 250, somewhere in the range of like extra souls per minute. Is the expectation. So getting souls is easier. So, and also because laning is better for soul collection, the support players who would normally be a bit more starved of souls also benefit more. So it's very different right now. And I think all of these changes are really positive for us actually, as viewers of the game.
Well, ZP, speaking of changes, not only do we have changes in game, we had a change on Deadlock Fight Night and how we do the coin flip. So I want you to at least describe to people who weren't here for the EU portion of the broadcast how we now do our coin flip.
Yeah, the coin flip is out. No longer is it me going to Google and doing Google coin flip. No, we do it the way as God intended. That's right. Mo and Krill versus Mo and Krill. Fisticuffs only and parry. And ding, ding, ding. We're already into it. That's Goober on the left. Lord Nightmare for Llama Lords on the right. And you see how fierce this gets. It's just raw mole versus mole action. And NA got spicy.
I was about to ask, did they just agree to not parry each other whatsoever with these heavy slams? Oh, Goober gonna go down from this one. So Lord and M gonna be able to secure it for him and his team. That's gonna be Llama Lords for the choice of first ban or first pick. Or second pick, I guess I should say. I'm not gonna lie, ZP, I like it. I feel like we need to get like a proper ring set up, you know, get the whole shebang going, maybe get like a skin with like, you know, some boxing gloves on Mo and Krill, really step it up for next time, but I love it, man.
Oh yeah, we could do that, right? Custom skins. I've seen some pretty interesting custom skins recently.
I have too.
Come on, let it go. Let it go.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it reminds me of Dead or Alive. I don't know if you guys remember that. But anyway, let's like move on quickly.
That was a really great demo I had on my PlayStation way back in the day. But yeah, we can head to drafts as soon as possible here and really see how this one's going to break down. But, you know, ZP Llama Lords, we've heard a lot of good things about this team. We've heard from a lot of NA players that this could be the team to take down Hydra Nation. So when it comes to favorites, I think all three of us are going to be leaning towards the double Ls.
Llama Lords feel like the team to beat here, but Revival, of course, also having very good recent tournament performance, not ones to be slept on. And look, NA is variable. No, come on. Off limits. They banned the Viscous. Rip Goober, the one, the only, the Lord of Viscous Dan. He's been banned out.
Yeah, it's so sad because like if you're a player that's like so known for like playing one hero, I feel like you have to like bait people. You like spread like false rumors and just like make it sound like you're like some god on like a hero just to play something else. Because this is always going to happen, probably, most probably. So you're just always going to get wrecked. I mean, how are you going to have anything other than just disappointment? How are you going to be in a situation that's anything but just soul crushing in a scenario? Like, what's Goober going to play? What's he going to do?
I'm just thinking of the Franco meme with Naked, and he looks over him like first time when you had like McGinnis banned out against him. Like, is this your first time getting targeted ban? But Yamato, we are going to see first pictures, ZP.
It's kind of what we thought would happen in Europe, but didn't happen in Europe. But now you have to go, okay, what is going to be picked up here? If it was Europe, it would be Wraith. Wraith would be walking through that door right here, right now. But because it's NA, it's going to be Paradox, where also we thought we'd see it in EU. It makes sense. Maybe Paradox Vindicta, because you have Paradox already. You get Vindicta on top of it. You don't have to deal with your Vindicta getting swapped out. Vindicta also spiked in popularity for NA. Or maybe they go back in time and they go, yeah, Infernus is good early. But no, Pocket, that also makes sense because you gotta get to Ido. Ido likes Pocket, and or rather, not give it to Ido. You don't give Ido his Pocket on the other side.
I think play with me right now, DDK, is just like, I need to move to NA. Like, how is Wraith not being banned or picked right away? Like, this is insane.
Dude, just play with me would tear things up here in this region. It would be so interesting to see. But this is like very predictable. We get a Kelvin very early. Actually, we didn't see Kelvin was usually like a 5 or 6 pick in the EU region. So interesting to see that. Kelvin seems to be getting a lot more favor. Actually, I would say a lot more priority of the supports in this new meta so far. That's something that at least I have been noticing. But otherwise, I feel like this is like pretty standard what you would expect. Like, this was the one thing I mentioned in the last broadcast. The draft is going to be much more predictable than EU. Infernus coming out was an interesting one because Infernus is kind of like Infernus is good still, but we had that question about how effective is he going to be given the fact that most of the builds require like the Infernus to be able to farm the jungle and get the power spike quickly, but you're looking at some the tier 4 items and so on to do that. So you might have to adjust the build slightly to come online a bit more quickly, but Infernus is still very good. So it's good to see that they're not shying away from him.
Yeah, looking at this here, so Infernus getting prioritized a little bit higher in an NA. Now you think about supports, right? You've already chosen Kelvin. Maybe you don't need to do something like pick an Ivy here. You can double stack it if you really wanted to. My question is, what about Warden? Because Warden was very, very highly valued in EU. I don't know if Warden necessarily needed that level of valuation, but that was one of the trends we saw in EU, and instead it's Wraith. Wraith, a lowly 4th pick in NA versus the perma ban and or first pick in EU. The disparity continues.
There's a lot of firepower on Llama Lords, like Yamato, Infernus, Wraith. That's a lot of like damage coming out straight away. So I'm curious how that's going to be balanced out for Yuki Panuki at all. We did see some issues when you're playing against a lineup that has a lot of damage output like this, that it can be difficult to not just lose map control like in the early to mid game, and that can have pretty difficult ramifications. So to see how it balances out here for Yuki Panuki. I mean, what are their options really in that sense in the 5-6 slot?
I mean, I'm trying to think towards, you need some sort of front line at least to help facilitate this team. I mean, I'm only really thinking of like Mo and Krill potentially, but then again, you're not really using Mo and Krill to counter anything in particular on the other side. I swear I didn't look at the picks ahead of time or anything like that. I mean, I'm just thinking like, what can you possibly have? You need someone that can soak some damage, so like Wraith and Furnace can have some time in the backline to just pump. So they have their support, they have like their solo lanes, they technically even have like dual lanes who can play solo lanes. I almost want to see like a Lash out of them last potentially, but I don't even know if Lash technically fits well in this comp.
I think we might see like
they need damage right now, and they get Lash, which makes sense to a degree. But you got to think final pick. They have to be angling for Haze or maybe Warden, but probably Haze, Dan.
It's interesting. I mean, I could I mean, the Vindicta's not being picked. So the Shadow Talon. Like if you're thinking like damage. I think those are more preferable over the Haze, unless you're able to play around a Haze and have a Haze that plays like Play With Me. I haven't seen anybody else make it work. And the first Dynamo, I was going to mention that we don't see Dynamo ever, but the economy changes that we've had do make Dynamo more viable, because Dynamo does obviously need some items to ensure that his ult actually does something, and you can get to those items a bit more quickly now, and you don't have to rely on jungling or anything like that. You're going to get more souls. So this patch is good for Dynamo, so it's not too surprising to see him.
I looked over ZP at Discord really quickly. When I saw that, I was like, did production make a mistake? And of course, one of our production people's like, hold on to your butts. We see the Dynamo we picked up here, like, never would have predicted. I thought you were saying it's more predictable in NA, DDK. What happened?
True. I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, we got the first 4 picks. It looked pretty predictable, but after that, it started to go a bit crazy.
What's your
I
thoughts
like it, though. I'm into this.
I look at Panuki, and you do kind of have to wonder who is going to do the heavy lifting from a carry side of things here. And I feel like you need to have the greatest Spirit Ivy game of all time to kind of even things out, because it's not a lineup that really does much damage if you get significantly deep into the late game. You've given up a lot of that power over the Llama Lords, where you got Yamato, Infernus, Wraith, and even Dynamo for late game team fights, where, yeah, he isn't the most popular nowadays, but that's still an area where Dynamo can really shine. So I look at this and think, Yuki Panuki, they have to win early.
I'm looking at the healing they have here, like, holy crap, Kelvin and Dynamo, the amount of healing they can be able to put on these fights, like, yeah, you might be able to catch someone, but they might have enough healing to just prevent you from being able to kill them.
Yeah, it's gonna be super interesting to see how this kind of plays out. I do like Llama Law's lineup a lot just because of how oppressive it in theory can actually be. It also at the same time I'm not sure how it's going to come together. Whereas with Yuki Panuki, I can see all the synergies, I can see all the setups, the initiation. Like it feels a lot more rounded. So I don't know if I'm leaning towards just a comp. If I just close my eyes and don't look at the team names, I like Yuki Panuki's comp a bit better, even though Llama Law's is stacked with all the carries.
I think when you look at it, you have Pocket, you have Paradox, you have Lash, you have even Geist and Abrams, where, I mean, Geist is kind of even the entire game, but still really good early. This is a team comp that is going to give real problems to Llama Lords in up until about 15 minutes. But if they are not very firmly ahead, you suddenly now have to deal with Infernus scaling. You have to deal with Yamato scaling. You have to deal with Wraith scaling. It's going to get very, very difficult to deal with as the game goes on. So for me, I look at this and go, okay, Yuki Panuki, you've kind of thrown your gauntlet on the table. You must win this early or at least get a very big advantage. If you don't, it's probably over.
I mean, what I look at is what out of Yuki Panuki is going to stop Wraith from just split pushing? Like, Wraith is going to be able to 1v1 any of these heroes when you get to that point in the game. I think Yuki Panuki, like, they want a team fight, right? But like, you can kind of counteract the team fighting by like great disengage, especially if you level Kelvin's 3 first, like all the way. Then you have the split push to counter that, to be able to take down objectives that they can't really respond on. I'm also looking at Yuki Panuki for like Pocket for Alju. I'm assuming you're going to probably level up your ultimate first, like to max, just so, your affliction, just so you can deny a lot of healing in these fights as well here. But ZP, before we do head into this first match of NA, any final thoughts?
Final thought is going to be just what we said before. I think you look at for Yuki Panuki, they're going to come out flying out of the gate in all likelihood because of their early game power. But if they don't keep up that level of intensity, it's going to be it. Llama Lords will come back.
All right, well, let's see what's going to happen here as we kick off North America DDK. He's been waiting all night for this, and I never thought I'd be seeing a Dynamo to kick things off on NA.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Dynamo looks like after having been so absent. But yeah, I think I tend to overvalue team utility. Obviously, there's a huge component as to how effectively a team's able to synergize, and that can depend a lot on how the macro of the game goes. But that's a point for later. Let's see how these lanes break down.
Wait, Llama Lords have a 2-1-1-2.
Yeah, this is a very common thing, it seems, in NA, where you go to the solo lanes, you try to give a slight edge to your teammate that's in the solo lane. So you often see that the 2-2s, which is quite interesting. Seemingly not involving any kills just yet, which is good. Nothing too crazy or out of order happening just yet. And I think we're settling into a more normal formation here now, Jason.
My head hurts, man. After doing like EU, everything's so standardized in my head, and then I come into NA and you got a 2-1-1-2, which is like so old school for Deadlock, well, old school now. But like you're saying, as things have normalized a bit here, you can see Young Calc's going to be already low on HP, and that's going to be over in lane 3. But again, Scorn, Mo, and Krill, not too big of a deal. I'm actually kind of curious how these lanes are going to play out with the Infernus versus Pocket, and of course the Wraith versus Geist. And as ZP was saying before, like if Llama Lords get started early on with some early kills, I feel like it's gonna be really hard to stop them.
Yeah. One thing I'll mention actually is, well, hold that thought for a second. Oh, we might be on for a kill here. The ice comes in, but looks like able to escape there is a Fickle Frog on the Ivy. But I was going to mention that one of the changes, because we've had a lot of changes to those tier 1 Guardians. Over time, it's harder to dive, they do more damage to heroes, they have more target prioritization on heroes as well. So generally speaking, that has made lane freezing a bit better, I would say. So if you're in a solo lane and you're having a hard time, you can actually just like freeze the lane and you can just get all the last hits like fairly safely for the most part. So I feel like that does make things a little bit more even, and it gives you a bit more flexibility on how you can gain value with your early lane. And then equally, the person who does push the lane and is not the one lane freezing can also run boxes whilst the waves are kind of, if you time it correctly, you won't miss out on the waves. So there's some ways to counterplay it too.
Yeah, and I always feel like the trade-off of freezing your lane is like you're not going to be involved in other lanes. And I think, yeah, as you said, you're more talking about the solo lanes than the dual lanes, because the dual lanes, you want to get involved in all these solos to try to look for some kills. Like Ido, he went from lane 2 over to lane 1 to look for something. But I think more importantly, he's actually just soaking souls, because he's currently at 2.5. And even Goober was doing some aspect of that. He's actually heading back to lane 1 as well. So it seems like we have our 2 individual players looking to get that ultimate online ASAP so they can be effective and start forcing some kills.
Indeed. It's looking quite nice right now for Llama Lords, even though obviously it's just a 1k stall difference. I'm eyeing up the fact that Ido is already very close to 3k, just getting a good job at the farming. Is actually moving over to lane 1 at the moment to try to put perhaps some more pressure on to Yuki Panuki, onto their Geist XD001. I don't know how I'm supposed to say that name, to be honest, Jason. I'll be honest.
Well, you're doing all the pivot play today, right? In this match, so I'm sorry to say his name. Yeah, I don't know. X2, Cross2. Yeah, I don't know. But what I do know is there's gonna be a fight breaking off here in lane 3. I believe we did have the paradoxical swap come in, but I'm not quite sure if it landed. But either way, Goober's like, hey, you banned my Viscous, I'm gonna punish you, and they get the first kill on the young Calc.
Yeah, and I love the active play coming in from Yuki Panuki to steal that one away. They didn't actually miss any farm either on lane 2, so good timing for them. At the same time, like some extra pressure, as we can see on this first lane against XD001. Hey man, if you're gonna have a name that's hard to say for casting, I'm just at a certain point I'm like, okay, you're just gonna get what we can give you.
oh man, the amount of times I've casted someone that their actual name isn't even remotely close to what you see like in game, it hurts my head.
Yeah, at least it's not a barcode. Although maybe
sure.
A barcode would be fun to work with.
Capital I, lowercase L, capital. I don't know how you cast that one. But we are seeing a little bit of rotation come back in out of Yuki Panuki here, trying to pull both players from lane 4 over to lane 3. But unfortunately, looks like the runaway will happen here out of Llama Lords to escape any sort of action happening, at least for now.
So again, more activity from Yuki Panuki, gravitating towards this third lane with 3 players. I mean, it's the mid lanes. You have a lot of ability to kind of move in between them, and Goober is on the Paradox, just having a decent game, decent start so far, at least in the souls. So good to see. Gets denied his standout pick on that Viscous. To be honest, I feel like we all want to see it. Goober is known for it. And it is always fun to see the specialists play. Like if you have a game of Bebop where Walex is in the game on the Bebop, for example, you're going to really want to kind of look and see if he's found some innovation that other people are not running. But with that said, so far it does seem to be relatively even across the board at the 6-minute mark. And the 3k plus goal mark hasn't yielded too many picks, it seems, so far, Jason.
I'm going to change topics really quickly. I'm so sorry for not fully paying attention there, because there was a patch that was just pushed 3 minutes ago, which I don't think is going to affect this game. So I'm going to keep it maybe for later on. But you guys at home are watching. There has been a change, and there's some slightly significant ones in there. We'll touch on those later on, but we can definitely talk about them when the moment's right. But as we head back into this game here, 6-minute mark, kind of quiet, I would say, actually. I was expecting a little bit more presence out of like Ido or Goober. I mean, obviously Goober did facilitate the first kill they got into Young Calc, but considering they were soaking souls so early on, I thought those ultimates would have a little bit more impact.
Yeah, I was quickly looking at the patch notes. I'm like, what have they done? Okay, we'll definitely go into that a little bit later, but I'm just like looking at the Deadlock network offline at the top right of my screen. What's that big red thing? So yeah, lane 3 seeing a lot of action. I think the majority of the action so far. And all right, there's Singularity, the swap coming in to try to counter, but it is looking kind of chaotic right now. There's the TP and the shelter to come in to try to save the Llama Lords as they try to continue fighting here. Death Slam online as well. It's all happening on lane 3 at the moment, and I have no idea how nobody is dead just yet. It doesn't make any sense, Jason.
Naked pull off a parry the second he landed and got a stun onto 2 players, which allowed him to escape, and they're able to turn a kill onto Rundus in the meantime. Here's the Moan Curled as well. Young Calc looking to back away here. A phenomenal play, a phenomenal individual play by Naked there. Nets Yuki Panuki a decent lead. Well, not even necessarily a lead, but a decent fight.
Yeah, they've really pushed back Llama Lords. They swarmed in here with almost every single player, so they had the numbers advantage. Continuing to push, and it's drawn attention from Llama Lords as well as they now start to push Yuki Panuki back towards their Guardian. And this is chaotic. And another player going down here for Yuki Panuki. Llama Lords getting the best of this one off of the re-engage. Wow.
Yeah, this is Lucky comes in big here with 2 kills at the very end. There's Ido. Like, that's what I was wanting to see, right? I was expecting some more impact by the players who were soaking souls earlier on, and Ido comes in to help facilitate these kills as well. Good little turnaround here as Llama Lords do sprout a 6k soul difference here now between these two teams.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, if I have time to do so, we might have a fight brewing here on lane 4 as this Guardian is under threat. Llama Lord's looking to push this position. Yuki Panuki will have to try to defend this one. How much are they going to commit to doing it? Llama Lord's trying to focus down the Guardian, but it is going to take a lot more chunking down than is currently happening. Finally, though, they'll be able to get it. But there are players on the back. Brave coming in on the Abrams in the flank, but can't quite find the engage. They don't quite have enough players here, despite there being 4 people. They don't find the opening that they were looking for to start the fight.
Just unfortunate, Run just didn't have Death Slam up, so they couldn't really force that fight earlier than they would have liked to have. So they get the final Guardian, they back away, they lose absolutely nothing for this. They get a 7k soul lead now. As Yuki Panuki need to figure out what they're going to do next, and obviously looking for fights would be ideal. Play around Goober, of course, that paradoxical swap. But the damage, you can see Ido there over onto Fickle Frog, takes him down to about 300 HP just off 1 power slash.
Yeah, that felt personal. Now, it's one thing that we should really remember is what ZP said in terms of how his estimation as to how the game should play out based off of the comms. He was expecting that Yuki Panuki, if they are to be able to win off of this comm, due to the way that the Llama Lords heroes will scale into the mid and late game, Yuki Panuki need to come out into that mid game with a decent lead at the very least. And so far, they are behind as we are entering the mid game.
Yeah, and that's not the ideal situation here. I don't necessarily want to count them out. I'm not going to count them out just yet because we saw what a Paradox can do to turn a game around just in our last match. But definitely need to see some signs of life here. And obviously the comp that they have is it's packed full of HP. I think the problem that we did discuss, though, it's going to be a lack of damage when you get into these fights. Are they going to be able to burst anyone down in time? Especially Ido. I mean, he's at 12k souls. Like, he is far above everyone else. He's been farming everywhere across the map. And you've already seen the damage he can do. Like, I don't know. This is going to be very tough, but me and Panuki need to come up with some sort of play here, and the Urn's just not going to be it. Also,
I did
to note, one of the changes in the patch, the first Urn is always neutral. The patch that just came out 5 minutes ago, it's always neutral, so you can tell we're playing still on the old patch for now since it's in enemy territory.
And also one other thing that I noted from the incoming patch is that Yamato got a little bit nerfed because obviously Yamato is pretty crazy right now. And speaking of which, you pointed out Ido on the Yamato is leading the game on the souls. That is very dangerous. We'll have to see how that comes into play. Here is the singularity now sucking them in. Is there any follow-up, though, for that? You need a follow-up of some kind. Abrams there with the seismic slam trying to escape. Yuki Panuki trying to fall back, able to throw some of these players back to try to slow them down, but they aren't to be slowed here, Jason. They are continuing to push forward. They get 2 kills, and they're getting a walker off of this.
Yeah, Rokane's pushing lane 4. He's drawing 3 players from Yuki Panuki here in this direction as well. I'm not sure why there's 3 in that direction, but I guess they realized we can't defend this walker in lane 2. They're going to transition out to lane 1 to get another walker, and more importantly, another flex slot. This is looking really good for Llama Lords.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And oh man, another big pickup here with that lane 1 walker. At the same time, whilst this is all going on, Rokane on the Infernus has been trying to farm up towards lane 4 and continue the pressure there, and that has distracted Yuki Panuki somewhat. They have to figure out, what do we address right now, because this push is happening all over the place, and now the Urn is being ferried across by Llama Lords as well. It has to go into enemy territory, and another fight coming through, and we talked about Rokane trying to survive. Oh my goodness, Rokane able to fall back, able to get onto the roof, and I don't think that they're going to be able to follow this one up. Indeed, it's just able to fire down from the roof, from the elevated position, and relative safety.
Oh, well, Graves coming in from behind him. This is looking like it's going to be a kill. The question is, are they going to be able to turn the Urn off the back of that? And didn't need anything, just a quick stun into the truck. They're going to get a Guardian for themselves, and there's no Urn turning coming in. So Yuki Panuki, it took a little bit more of the effort than they expected for Rokane, but they get the kill nonetheless. They get the objective. More importantly, they start to pull back this soul differential ever so slightly.
Indeed. However, Llama Lords, it's still a very scary prospect. The fact that Ido is looking fantastic. 16k souls, 14k for slugfest as well. So a lot of damage is going to be in the future for Yuki Panuki to be at least on the receiving end of. And look at that escape there. Using the TP to get out of dodge is slugfest. And once again, Yuki Panuki, they just can't quite nail down these kills, and it might in part be due to the lack of that burst direct damage. And in comes Ido. He pops the ult.
He knows the team's going to be coming in hot pursuit. Hurricane's not going to have combustive concussion, though, so I'm not sure if they're going to be able to lock down anyone to actually secure any of these kills, but they're forcing them back in basically a 2-on-3. But the rest of the team is going to be here to help out as well. That's going to be the Moan Crew going in to lock down a player, and that will be 2 quick kills coming in for Llama Lords. I mean, there's no Walker in lane 1. What are they going to do off the back of this? If anything, Fickle Frog's doing a great job of pushing into lane 3 here to take down, I believe, a Guardian, get them a flex slot, and he was even potentially looking for damage onto that Walker, but it's just not going to be.
Yeah, it's a very tough position to be in here for Yuki Panuki. It almost feels like, as EP likes to say, you know, it's a numbers game or a stat check, I think, as he says. Yeah, because that's the territory we're in now.
Stat check. I'm sorry, continue. That was a stupid joke.
You know what? I didn't even hear I didn't even hear the joke. What did you, can you say it again?
Schmoove stat check.
Smooth stat. Okay. Oh, I see. I see. So you did a bad joke and I made you repeat it. I feel.
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. You should feel bad, but I feel worse because I made the bad joke twice.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, moving forwards, Llama Lords collecting on lane 3 once again, congregating, and Yuki Panuki are all here as well. Big team fight brewing. As that urn starts to walk its way back to its original spot, but that is not really a consideration at this point, as Yuki Panuki look to see how they can possibly engage it. But Llama Lords, they're able to just like force their way in here, pushing into this team fight. Concussive combustion in the middle of it. Seismic slam comes down though from Yuki Panuki. They picked up 2 kills. They're actually ahead on the numbers. And Gray finally goes down to that Abrams, and the trades come through for Llama Lords, and it's all this damage. Ido flying around with Shadow Form, just decimating the front lines, the back lines, the mid lines. Everything is gone thanks to Ido on the Yamato.
Yeah, I mean, it looked good in the beginning, but you only angered Ido as he's able to transform and just put out the damage. Only Runda's gonna be the last alive here as this Walker probably gonna be picked off, the last one as well, which is gonna give another flex slot to Llama Lords as they're now spouting a 22k soul lead. One thing I didn't get to touch on earlier that I noticed, you remember when slugfest got caught out in lane 1 but was able to escape? This was about 2-3 minutes ago. They used 2 silences on him and he was still able to get away, which kind of blows my mind, and also is a testament to how great he is on movement, because he wasn't able to just teleport away for the longest time because of it, but they weren't able to capitalize off of that and turn it into a kill.
Yeah, and that is, those moments really add up for sure. It really does add up. And speaking of which, we've got a scenario right now where Llama Lords are able to just compound their advantage. They've got full map control. They continue to dominate the map. And I think, like you just described, one of the issues is that Yuki Panuki have to invest far more than would be considered even. They have to over-invest. And the thing is, I say over-invest because they're not left with enough to be in a good position to do stuff after these skirmishes. And really, you want to be in a position where you're trading evenly on abilities at worst, really, for the most part.
Okay. All right, Ido gets away from Grave, who's trying to look for the gank there. I think that's what, 3-4 players, excuse me, in lane 4 at the moment.
All right, well, Yuki Panuki able to take that urn, and you know it's on their side of the map, so decent chance to turn this one in. They did adjust the urn placements a little bit to make them a little bit less favorable for the side that is behind, but still, you can see the mad dash for both teams across the map as they look to deliver this one, and it feels like Yuki Panuki should be able to deliver this without too many issues, because Llama Lords are like, have your bloody urn, we'll take the mid boss instead. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that trade if I was the Llama Lords. The question is, will they be able to kill it in time? Will there be any sort of contest out of Yuki Panuki? And it looks like from what we can see in the minimap, there will not be, unfortunately. So they will get the urn turn in, yes. They will get a Guardian as well on top of this. That's the last Guardian of the game for both teams. But they lose Rejuvenator. And, well, Llama Lords, I mean, we've already seen what they can do in these fights, even losing 2 players early on. feel like it's only going to get worse if they have the Rejuvenator now, knowing they can respawn back in and continue the pressure. It's a little bit of a Metal Gear Solid like style right there, going through the vents.
Yeah. Also going the wrong way, because that way is going to spit you out. So it confused my brain. But it's okay, because we're in a position right now where it feels like Llama Lords should be in a position to start finishing off the game. You know, that's kind of the spot they're in. They've got the rejuve. They're going to have all lanes pushed. They've got all the major objectives already. You know, obviously, Urn's gone, mid boss is gone. All that's left ready to do here is, after you farm up what's left on the map and you take all that value that's on the table for yourself, you start to try to force the fight and exercise the advantage that you have with the power spikes difference that you know the plus 20k souls gives your team.
I also like the pickup here to Slugfest, going with the Siphon Bullets, considering the team he's up against is just going to be naturally very beefy. Help soften him up a little bit, make him a little bit tankier at the same time. But Llama Lords have started to group up between lane 2 and 3. I mean, there's really no objectives for them to take outside the enemy base here, so they have to start to force some fights at these Guardians, or these base Guardians. But still, I mean, 20k behind, it is very doable to come back from, especially if you get a great pick, and that's going to be the swap coming through, forces Ido into his team. But Ido, he might be exactly where he wants to be.
Yeah, and there is the burrow coming in. That's going to slow everybody down if they wanted to escape. It's going to be a lot harder to do now. Combo is still available, although there comes the silence. And oh, the death slam is scary. Almost right into the base, into those towers. Combo comes in, just slapping away. And Llama Lords exercising their strength that they have earned with this massive soul lead, and it's just going to get worse, because after the combo, you're going to get pulled into the singularity as well. The entire team except Grave has been wiped, and they're going to get both shrines. They still got all they have all the rejuve buff online for every single player. I think this is it, Jason.
And they have so much healing they can afford to stay, even though their health is extremely low here. I mean, you saw there alone that young Calc was just basically sitting there ulting in front of their faces, and they couldn't even burst him down. He was on like 3,800 HP. The Patreon will transform. It's up to Grave and Goober to defend. And Rundus will be up eventually, but with no ultimate, no chance. And Llama Lords will be up against Hydra Nation here in our money match of North American Deadlock Fight Night.
A quick 20-minute game, and well, I don't think there was really any moment of that game where it looked like Llama Lords wasn't going to win. Ido, especially very early on, was getting massive advantages in his lanes, and just, you know, hugely strong players. So I think it went as we expected it to go. And it's going to be Llama Lords up against Hydra Nation to see if somebody can destroy Hydra Nation's streak of winning every single week.
I mean, I think we're eventually we have to start putting like a rule in where you can't play more than 6 weeks in a row if you win every time, because we need to start having some new Kings of North America. But you know what, speaking of Kings, let's bring in our King, as ZP going to be joining us here on the desk to talk about that last match. And as you kind of predicted, Llama Lords did eventually take the match here and took it early.
Not only did they take it early, but you know, Jason, we have to say goodbye, not only to Yuki Panuki, but say goodbye to Yamato. At least a little bit, because of the changes that have come in. That was the final competitive match of peak Yamato. Though I think Yamato's still going to be pretty good. But look, we kind of set the stage, right? Of there was really no scaling that Yuki Panuki had in their composition. So they were under the gun to get very far ahead pretty early in the game. Not only did that not happen, they in fact fell behind early in the game, and it went about as expected, where all of a sudden you have a massively overfed Yamato, and you have no one on the other team that can at all reasonably deal with it, with how the game spun out. And then on top of it, you have worse team fight because the Dynamo is landing really good singularities half the time. It was complete mechanical domination. I also think it was a draft victory. Look, Llama Lords, they kind of won this game in any conceivable fashion that you could judge a deadlock game in, and they've won the right now to go up against Hydra Nation.
Now the real question is, ZP, who's going to be the player of the match in your eyes?
It's got to be Ido. Ido gets ahead the Yamato, slashes people up, cuts them up, and I would say that even if I wasn't the person that picked Ido 5 seconds ago, so I did know the answer, but yeah, I think it's hard to argue against Ido with how decisive this match went.
Yeah, I would agree, DDK. I mean, Ido, he did the great balance between lane 1 and lane 2. He was constantly there looking for ganks with Slugfest in lane 1. He was feeding a lot of souls from both those two lanes as well. But just the damage he was able to put out, the raw damage, there was just nothing that could stop him. Even in this fight, when Llama Lords lost 2 players right off the bat, Ido almost single-handedly carried them through this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Yamato is S tier right now, and it doesn't help when you've got a player that's this good at the role and at the character. So yeah, right from the beginning, Ido was getting ahead, just, you know, doing so well to engineer soul leads on lane. And again, a lot of that is a mechanics thing, but also just an overall Deadlock skill thing. So Ido showing that it's cut above, and that's what we want to see, especially going into what he has to face next.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one, obviously, up against Hydra Nation. But we can see, I mean, Ido leading in player damage, objective damage, souls as well here. This is lucky, though. We didn't really touch on him too much because obviously he was kind of overshadowed by Ido, but he had a very solid game as well, put up 7 kills early on. I like the way he built his character as well, or his hero. And then Naked, as ZP pointed out, having some great singularities.
It's interesting to see the Dynamo come into play. And look, part of that also is, I think Naked has one of the more unique hero pools of your competitive players right now in Deadlock. Naked goes back to the very beginning. And I'm not talking about when the NDA got lifted. I'm talking about Naked was one of the select few that was in the game back in May. They've been able to really hone mechanical skill in heroes that might not be flavor of the month, right? So Naked, more than your average Deadlock player, does have picks in their back pocket that are not in fact pocket. They can go to Dynamo, they can go to McGinnis, they can play stuff that's a little bit off the beaten path right now. And hey, look, when you're looking for an edge in these sorts of situations and trying to get one up and over the composition, or rather the enemy teams, being able to pick something that you might not have even practiced against a whole lot, it's an edge. I really do think it is.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. And we're going to find out if Naked has anything else to show us in our final match of the night. We're going to head to a short break here. We got to make sure we update because we did have that minor patch, sorry. But when we do come back, we're going to have our best of 3. But more importantly, we're going to quickly look at the patch notes and talk them over with you guys at home. So we'll see you in a few.